Oh my goodness, would you look at all those ball jars that were just donated to my local Goodwill. Some even have the original lids on them. And yes, if you're all wondering, I did for that lucky 13 on the bottom to see if any of them were that number, but nope, they weren't. And I actually left the blue ones on the shelf. I have quite a stash myself.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Yvonne from Ginger Chick Rehab. I am so glad to have you back checking out what I am up to. So in today's video, yep, I did it again. It's still garage sale season here in Michigan, so I am still enjoying it and still finding lots of treasures to flip and make a profit, either make them over or just resell them. But there's still lots of sales going on. So today I went out by myself, which is usually I got a shopping buddy, but right now I've been going by myself. So I hit about 6 sales. One I left empty-handed, just like the thrift store. You don't know what you're going to find. And the first one I went looking for a black bench, and I was a few minutes after they opened, and so I lost out. But yeah, like I always say, it wasn't meant to be. So that is all good. So I'm going to share with you what I did find. It was kind of like I was right in my general area, so just like 15-mile radius, so it was kind of nice not having to travel too awful far. So let me share with you what I got. So the first sale, she was still setting up. She had some great prices. I think my total spend was $27, so not bad at all. So she had one of these little cubbies, and I've resold these little cubbies as is. They're super heavy. Porcelain. I don't know if this is Pier 1's version or if it's a different version. There's not a tag or any maker mark or anything on it. So I believe this was $5. So that was a great find. And then don't look at my dirty dishes. Okay, clean dishes. So here's a mirror. It's got a cute little cubby. Yeah, it's just a nice little decor piece. I may paint this one up into my colors. I think it would be super easy. I can't take off the back, but I can tape off the mirror. It got some dust, but yeah. Yep, usually they do. Oh, I guess this is a wine bottle, alcohol bottle, but the fish was very unique. Now, I've sold those littler versions of this bottle, so this one caught my eye. I think that was $1. I think this was $1. So, I mean, I don't remember, but the total spend was $27. So there was this fish. I actually liked the green color. And then this was brand new. Even though I think the doorknob's enough, I don't necessarily think that you need extra hangers on it. I would just like a leash for your dog or your coat or your purse or whatever or in a bathroom. What do you all think? I don't know if you needed extra hooks on them, and I don't even know that I'm looking at them. I'm not even sure if I guess they're centered, but I don't know, maybe it's just the lighting, but this was $1. It was regularly $21, it looks like. So I'll probably paint this over. And then for another $1, I picked up a spice rack. I kind of stopped picking them up because they hadn't been selling, but this one's a little bit of that industrial vibe with the metal. So I thought maybe this one, the vintage ones I was redoing a lot of, and then they kind of stopped selling. So I thought, okay, well, let's just go over here. No bottles or anything, that people can just add their own bottles to it. I'll clean this up. I'll think about painting it, but I may leave it the wood and maybe add some wording to it. Maybe. We'll see. And for a couple bucks, I love primitive. I still love primitive. So this is just that wooden crow. I thought he was sweet, holding a star. I love rusty stars, and yep, just a nice little primitive piece. The crows always sell really well. So this handmade quilt, now I'm not sure on the sizing of it. It looks like it's just like a lap blanket. It did say handmade. There's nothing wrong with it or anything like that. She was just changing out her Americana decor. And I am a sucker for a $5 quilt. So I loved that. And then it was funny because I was looking at this and then some other things, and then I picked up this hat, and I'm usually not a hat person. That's a lot of hair to fit underneath the hat. But so I was just kind of looking at it, and then I looked at the tag and it said it was wool, and she's like, well, you can have that. It needs sewed. I'm like, it needs sewed? There's apparently a little bitty, she goes right there. She's like, I don't sell. You can have it. If you sew, you can have that. I'm like, okay, I can put a stitch in that. Yeah, I actually, it's super cute. So I thought that was funny. You have to just clean it up, and yeah, cute. I can sew. And then I did get a lot of that first sale. And then there was this bag that caught my eye, and these were 50 cents. It was, you know, these come off of a chandelier. So even though I don't have an idea at the moment for these, I don't even know how many are in there. There's at least 8. Yeah, so I'm like, okay, well, I'll hold on to those until I come up with an idea. And then keeping with the crow theme, she had this piece with sunflowers, which you all know I love, and then another crow. And she said she never, it's brand new, she never ended up hanging it up or anything. So yeah, I think that will, I probably wouldn't do anything to this. I just see how it sells as is. And then it was funny because there again, I was looking at that piece, and then I had to move this piece out of the way. And she's like, well, if you take both of them, you can have this one for $1. I'm like, okay. So she really wanted to clean her house. Yeah, this is not stained glass. It's like a painted on glass, and there's some wore off spots. But yeah, I think it has hangers like here, so I don't know if it was like a cabinet door of some sort. I'm not really sure, but okay, for $1, I guess I'll take it with me. I probably changed the frame though. I know you're all surprised by that. So then so let's see, that was it for that sale, which I got a lot for $27. So then on my next sale, I spied, like all these that I saw, I picked up on Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace, seeing who was gonna have sales. And so I spied some beautiful lamps. I bought some beautiful lamps. So, but then she had price tags up there on them more than I was willing. So there's this one, just a beautiful, oh my gosh, it's beautiful. And the other one is the same color. So the other one's a little bit bigger with like a lily pad. I absolutely love, yes, the sconce. Is that, ooh, let me tighten that up before that falls out. So then this one had this price tag on it, and so I looked at them and then I walked away because I'm like, well, I love them, but I want to resell them. So then I really was like, ah, shoot, those were a little too much, but as you see, they're in my possession. And so I did buy an 8-panel window from her, and then found out that she actually stopped reselling at Shipshawana. So it was her stock that she was getting rid of. And so then when I figured that out, I thought, oh, maybe those are old price tags on those lamps, and maybe she would do. So she ended up giving me the 2 lamps, one for $5, I think, and the other for $10. So half price. So that was doable. There you go. Yeah, so it's good to chat with people, right, y'all? So yeah, so I came home with the lamps that I was looking for. So then I was headed to another sale, and I think I picked up a table runner at that sale for $1. I don't even know. Sometimes I like to have table runners on my furniture in our booth so nothing gets scratched. So that's what I picked this one up for. So for $1. So that was the only thing I got there, but then I saw a sign, so I chased the sign a little bit to go to the other garage sale. Good thing that I did, because Yes, a piece of ironstone. Oh my gosh, it was $1. It was $1. So yes, $1. I had to double check. Maybe I was wrong. It's just really filthy. And then they also had, I'll insert that picture, a 3-drawer dresser, little chest of drawers that they had started to work on to flip themselves. There was a sign that said something about furniture repaired. So yeah, it was only $10. So even though I told myself furniture's not moving right now, don't buy, but it was only $10 and it's small.
So I love when I find an 8 pane when all the glass is intact, and then this 3-drawer dresser, little chest of drawers is super cute.
The lady, I didn't know it was like her 3rd day of the sale on a Friday. So she's like, just bring something off and I'll tell you a price. I'm like, okay. So there was this stool, and then these little like candle holders. I use them a lot for riser feet, but there was a set of 4. So I paid $1 for both pieces. So that was awesome. Happy to always have little riser feet and a project piece little stool. So then one more sale was on my way home. Was this little tin, rusted tin. I almost wish I would have stopped at hers earlier because what she had left, I'm like, oh, she probably would have had some good things, but hey, you know, it all is what it is. So yeah, for $1, I picked up this little rusted tin cup, and then this berry garland with the rusty stars, and this was also $1. So whether I use this or resell it or just take the berries off, or it's in good shape for $1. So I'm a sucker for rusted stars. But I did, my car just knows how to drive into Goodwill, so I did stop at Goodwill. And oh my gosh, I have to, the video of the ball jars, oh my gosh, all those blue ball jars. And they, you know, they were so happy that somebody donated it. They really don't resell very much in our area. So I did go through them because everybody's gonna ask, did I look for the 13? And I didn't see the 13. And I did look up every single one. But I did actually pick up a couple, only because they're clear. So this is a ball, this was $3.29. It had the big old wide mouth lid on it. And then this one is actually a cur jar. It has a ball lid on it, but it's a cur jar. And I like the patina of the age, and this one was $5.29, only because I just recently picked up some finials, some old finial aged little pieces of wood from an auction that we do monthly, and I wanted some clear jars to put those in because I thought, well, I want to be able to see them, and that's what I needed. So a little God wink moment, I found some age appropriate jars to go with those finials. And then the last thing I did pick up at our local Goodwill was this little scale. So it was just $3.29, just a nice little shelf sitter piece. I'll clean it up to see if I need to paint it up. I almost like the patina on it. It's got a little bit of rust, so I kind of like that patina. So I almost forgot that when I was getting the lamps and the window, she had a frame that she had just bought. You know, I'm a sucker for frames. So yes, this is old vintage, got some detail, got where a canvas used to be, so that means pallet wood or beadboard will fit nicely. That's one of the things I'm looking for when I'm looking at old frames. Am I able to put something behind it? Because sometimes you're not. So $5, loved this frame. Thank you for watching today's video. If you just stayed for the haul, we are done with the haul. And if you want to stay and watch what items I'm going to be making over, they are coming up next.
So I always like to start my makeovers with what I consider to be the simplest. And I love the concept of a doorknob hanger, but I don't really care about the 2 little hooks on the bottom. But that's just a personal choice. So I'm going to go ahead and take the tags off, remove those hooks. As you see, as I'm taking the screws out, this is MDF board, so when you take the screws out, it raises that wood. So I'm just taking my scraping tool to make sure that it's nice and even. And I'll fill those holes in with a little bit of wood spackle. After getting the spackle sanded, getting it washed, cleaned up with some crud cutter, now I'm going to go ahead and spray it with some shellac. Now that's going to even out that porosity where I put the wood filler and opened up that MDF board, and it's also going to help for my paint to stick a little bit better, actually a lot better on this MDF board. So then I'm just spraying it with Kilz paint and primer using my True Coat 360 handheld sprayer. This is, like I said, was a quick flip. So now that the paint is dry, I'm just going to go in with some 220 sandpaper just around the edges and a little bit on the metal itself, just to give a little bit of distressing. And after getting rid of all my sanding dust that I created, I'm going to go ahead and seal this in with a top coat of polyacrylic. Now, next up, we're going to do this adorable oval dresser mirror. Oh my goodness. And the little tiny drawer just sold me on this piece. So I'm going to go ahead and tape off the mirror since it has a nice paper backing that I don't want to disturb. I'll just tape off the front. And this is not the original paint of this. This paint that's on there, this cream color, is a really glossy, shiny. If you looked at the back, you could tell that it's been spray painted already. So I'm going to give it a good primer coat, undercoat of the Rust-Oleum's paint and primer in the flat black. So I thought I would try another technique, and this is one of those tried and true ones with the Vaseline. So I want to be able to see some of the black and distress that beautiful detail. So I'm just using a stenciling brush from the Dollar Tree store to apply the Vaseline on the areas I want to see underneath my paint. And now I let this completely dry overnight. Now all I'm doing is taking a wet wipe. Yep, just a plain old wet wipe. I've got a bucket of water, clean water beside me, and I'll rinse it out. And all I'm doing is wiping off those areas where I put the Vaseline. And see, you can see all that black paint underneath, and those details are just popping. Yep, this is just one of those tried and true, been around for a long time kind of techniques. Now, even though I use Kilz Paint Primer, I let it completely dry before moving on to top coat it with some polyacrylic. So I love that technique so much. I actually had brought home this sphere that had been in our booth. I had painted it black. It hadn't sold for months upon months. So I decided, you know what? I never seemed to be putting chalk paint in my sprayer. That's why I decided to use the Vaseline to get that same type of effect you can get with a chalk paint, just a little bit of different way of going about it. So I'm like, hey, I want to paint this white to see if it sells a little bit better. So I'm going to do that same technique on the sphere. There's actually so much to already love about this spice rack. I love the metal bars. I love the wood feature. It's a nice size. Not too crazy about the plywood backing, but we can work with that. Do you ever look at something that somebody's doing and think, what the heck are they doing? Yeah, so I love the outer of the wood, so I want to keep that, but I need to put a little bit of shellac on this. I'm not sure if that raw plywood that is stained will bleed through my finished look, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a couple coats of shellac. Now I'm going to go ahead and put a couple coats of the Kills paint and primer, my favorite go-to white, on the back of this. I'm actually going to be applying some decoupage paper, and I want my decoupage paper to stay nice bright white, and if I would leave that wood backing, it wouldn't be as crisp white. So what do you think? Yes, this is the ticking stripe, and see what I said? I wanted it to stay that white. That brown would have made it look almost dirty like. So I'm just cutting off a piece of this paper. I always link everything I use down in the description box so you can check it out if you are interested in this beautiful ticking stripe paper. Now to adhere the paper down, I'm just using polyacrylic. I get a lot of questions about this. Yep, you can use Mod Podge. I know there are other mediums that you can use, and I've never had a problem with just using polyacrylic. So just put a little bit down. I'm going to try to keep my stripes as straight as I can. And I do use a ball of crinkled up saran wrap to help work out the wrinkles. I find that sometimes when you're pushing it on your fingers, there's a chance you might rip it. And the saran wrap really does help with that you don't tear your paper. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect. It's that perfectly imperfect of a DIY craft project. But so what I'm doing here is I'm just releasing that tension in the corner by just making a little cut. After my polyacrylic is dry, I'm just going to take a metal ruler or a spatula sometimes, but I'm using a metal ruler today, and a very sharp X-Acto knife and cutting off that excess paper. Now that I have my excess paper cut, the tape removed, I'm just going to put another top coat of the polyacrylic to make sure that my paper is good and sealed. I did feel as if the blank space on that spice rack needed a little bit of something, and sometimes not everybody wants it to be spicy to say. So I just did mercantile dry goods. I curved the mercantile. I picked two different fonts, kind of stuck that dry goods in there, and now I'm sizing it appropriate to the space that I have, and then I'm going to cut it out on my Oracle vinyl. I absolutely love adding a little bit of extra wording. Now I will be using this as a stencil to paint it on. As I'm prepping my surface with some sandpaper, did y'all see my stencil just slide right off? Yeah, cuss words may have been said, because you know, once your vinyl folds on top of each other, yep, as you notice, now I have some black vinyl. I had to recut it, but I did need to scuff sand to make sure that I got that top coat off so that my paint would adhere to the board. Oh, the trials and errors of creating. For me, it's always easier to cut really close to my stencil and then add some Dollar Tree masking tape. That just helps me center it. So I am just using some Apple Barrel multi-use paint, and then after I do 2 coats, applying with a stencil brush, actually from the Dollar Tree store, drying in between coats, and I'll seal that in with some polyacrylic. So I still can't believe that I got this for 50 cents. I absolutely love, you can't even buy wood for 50 cents right now. So I am super excited to create something out. But first of all, I need to get these stickers removed. And this was raw wood. So as you see, the patina has changed on it. So I'm going to go ahead and take some 80 grit sandpaper because I think that's really into the wood and really get it cleaned up. And then I'll go up to a 220 sandpaper to make sure that it's nice and smooth. Before we can create any more on this little stool, I need to tighten it back up. It just has 4 nails that are holding it together, and they're not holding it together anymore. So I'm going to try to pry it apart just a little bit to get some tight bond wood glue in between the legs and the top, and then take some more brad nails and secure it down. This should hold it for a longevity. So now that we're prepped, we're sanded, we're glued, we're tightened, we're cleaned off, now it's time to start creating. And I absolutely love this paper by Roycycle Decoupage paper, and I love that this one has a whole bunch of different images. It's almost like an aged antique vintage farmhouse look, and I absolutely love this little chunky pig. So that is what I'm going to be using on the top of the stool. So same technique as before, just using polyacrylic as my adhesive to attach this little piggy. Now I'm trying hard to keep my adhesive, my polyacrylic off the raw wood because I'm going to finish this up by like a staining technique. And if I fill that in with polyacrylic, it's not going to absorb the stain in as much. So I'm leaving a little bit of an outer edge around the outside that I have not got any polyacrylic on. Now that my polyacrylic is dry, I'm going to go in with my orbital sander. I'm going to distress this paper to make it look like it's more that it's been worn off with time. So I'm just working on those outer edges. I know that I didn't adhere it all the way down, but I knew that I wanted to do this. And then I have enough polyacrylic on there that even if I run over the entire image, it's not going to be taking it off. I want it to be that aged look. So now I'm just going to take some watered down ink, Waverly chalk paint, and brush it on just those outer rim areas. That's just going to kind of almost give it a burnt type of look. And then for the top area, I'm going to do some watered down Waverly wax, which is brown. And then I'm just going to kind of work into my image. And then I'll mix in a little bit of that ink as I'm working on it. As I always say, just keep doing a project till you love it. So I'm just going to kind of keep mixing the two together until I love it. They pretty much decided that the brown was just too light, that paper of the dark of the black of the pig just stuck out too much, so I really went in with a lot of the ink, but I did Waverly wax the rest of the piece. Now that I finally had that top where I wanted it, I let it completely dry. Now I'm going to go in and do a nice coat of a polyacrylic, let that dry, sand it with some steel wool so I know that it's nice and smooth, apply another coat of polyacrylic, and this should be sealed in. And if you watch my channel long enough, you know that I have a love of old windows. But cost efficient, they have to be under $10 in my area to be able to make a profit on spending the time redoing these. So at 8 pane for $10, thank you very much for the wonderful deal. So first I need to do, this probably was some type of a cabinet door, some kind of dooring. So I'm going to be removing all its hardware. And then since I'm not going to be replacing any of that hardware, I'm going to go in with some wood putty and fill in all those holes. It's not a feature that I want to show off. And now that my wood putty is dry, I'm going to go ahead and get it sanded nice and smooth, along with evening out any of the chippy paint that may be coming off and making sure that the surface is nice and smooth. one thing that is hard when you're buying an old window is whoever caulked it. Just because I want straight lines doesn't mean I can always achieve straight lines. Sometimes I try to wash and pre-wet the caulking, trying to make it a little bit easier to try to scrape and make a straight line, but sometimes it's just not possible and I just move on, tape off my area, and yep, I'm going to be painting this piece black. So it's a personal preference. If you want to tape, you can scrape paint off of the glass also, but sometimes I just try to make minimal work for myself. So after 2 coats of paint on both sides, trying to cover up as much as that caulk I could, still making straight lines as best as I could. Now I'm just applying hangers to the back side of this piece so it has something for the next person that owns it to be able to hang it up. And because of the weight, I want to make sure that I have good hangers that are appropriate to the weight of this window. So now I'm flipping it over, still working on trying to make my windows pretty and straight using some Norwex cloth. So I got the Envir cloth, working on both sides, seeing if there's anything I need to clean off, and then the glass cloth is just amazing for cleaning and leaving windows streak free. Now that I've got it all cleaned up, I'm going to go in with some polyacrylic and seal this black paint in. So now my idea is to add some hooks to this piece, so it could be a coat rack, it could be where you just hang decor. So I was kind of playing with what hooks I had. Now the bigger ones, I thought, oh, that kind of almost makes it so you have to make it a coat rack because they're so large. So I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going to go with just my smaller hooks that I purchased off of Amazon. So now I'm just putting one in the center of each one of the windows. That's what I got my ruler out, just centering them. I'm going to pre-drill a hole. That way the screw goes in just a little bit easier. Just a nice, simple piece. So our last project of this video is the frame. So Chris is going to start taking apart, well, really just taking any hanger system off. This used to have probably a canvas in it, so it still has the nails that would hold the canvas. So we want to make sure we get any of those off. So Chris is going to be using his table saw to cut down some wood to fit inside that frame. But his slide just is kind of grabbing, sticking a little bit, and you definitely do not want that to be happening on your table saw. So he's just going to be using some of the Minwax paste wax on the bottom of his piece of his guide here to help it slide easily and not be catching as he's trying to cut a piece of wood. And then he'll lower his blade down, making sure safety first, and then go ahead and put some of that wax on top of his metal surface area. Also, this is going to help that you're not going to get any catches as you're trying to cut wood. So the wood of choice to go in this frame, sometimes it's nice to change it up. We do a lot of pallet wood, beadboard. Now we have this old tongue and groove board from a entertainment center that he took apart not too long ago. And so when I was asking him, do you have any wood to put inside this frame? He noticed this, and isn't that gorgeous? Now it's painted on the one side, but the other side is that natural wood tone. this just gorgeous patina on that wood. And look at, it's perfect for this yard sale flag that I picked up for $1. But first, I want to go ahead and repaint this frame. Now, luckily, I did remember the lady that I bought this frame for, saying that she had tried out the oven cleaner method, trying to strip the black paint off. It did not move the white whatsoever, but she was trying to get it down to that natural wood. And as I'm cleaning it, I could kind of feel a grabbing going on. So I took my Clorox wipe to see, yep, a whole bunch of was still trying to come off. So to prevent that bleed through from happening when I go to paint it, I'm going to seal it in with a couple coats of shellac. And now I'm just going to go in with a base coat of my ready to use black onyx and just cover up this white, cover up the side that she had stripped the black paint off. The shellac will actually help it grab really well. After my black paint has dried, now I just have a bowl of regular old school glue, and I am just going to apply it to the frame and then let it just dry ever so slightly, that it just gets a skim coat on the top. Not that it's completely dry, just a tad bit. And while that is drying, I'm actually going to change my towel out in the center because I happen to have my sprayer going, and replace that with some contact paper so I can spray my white paint on top of this to give it that beautiful crackle effect. And now that it's dry, look at that beautiful crackle. I don't even need to sand this piece, just the way that it crackled. I just absolutely love it. Sometimes if you want a little bit more of the underneath to show, you can take some sandpaper, but I'm loving on the crackles. So now I'm just removing that flag off of that dowel rod, only to find out I'm like, oh, it was glued on, and I'm not going to try to pick the glue off because I know that I take a chance of tearing the fabric, so I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and center my flag. I'm going to be using some hot glue to adhere it to the board anyway. Now that I have it glued down, I'm going to use some parchment paper, a hot no steam iron. I'm going to eliminate those kind of wrinkles you see going on, and then where it was wrapped around that dowel rod, it kind of has a curve. So it's going to reheat up this hot glue and lay a lot flatter. Then my final step is to make my back of my, of it look pretty. So I just have construction paper that we actually use to line our work tables. It works perfect for the back of pictures and mirrors like this. So I just hot glue it on, then I take some sandpaper to the edges to make sure that it's nice and smooth, and then we'll add a weight appropriate hanging system so that it's all ready to go.
So thank you so much for watching today's video, and what did you think? It was a fun little trip, a couple hours. I got a lot of shopping done in a couple hours. Yes, and then having some items that just need to be cleaned and resold. Yes, I love that, but I also do love sharing the makeovers with you. So let me know which item I found was your favorite, and then which item I made over was your favorite, and if I have inspired you in any way to look at secondhand finds in a new way. And as always, if you're part of our YouTube family, thank you so much. And if you are new and are checking out this content for the first time and you liked what you saw, please hit the subscription button along with the notification bell so you know we've uploaded a new video. And we will see you next time, guys, and you can see what I'm up to. Bye.